Okay, so now we're going to have Rabbi Jungreis. He's going to be speaking and sharing his story. Rabbi Jungreis, thank you again so much for coming on and being able to share with everyone on Yom HaShoah.
It's my honor, and I should be able to share with everyone the welcome ceremony for Mashiach soon. Let's hope. So the question is, should I speak, or do you want to ask me questions and I answer? How do you want this to go?
So what we would personally like from everyone is if you're able to share the story, a little bit of the history as going through the Holocaust, and
Yes.
And then from thereafter, once you share the story, your story, then after that, what you've done after, I think it would just be a very powerful thing, how it started out, how your family, how connected with Rebbetzin Esther A. A lot of the people were reading the story of the Rebbetzin book, and so I think connecting it as a brother's perspective of the whole family, I think it would be very amazing to hear. And so really about having the floor, just being able to share your experience through the Holocaust, what it was like as a child going through it.
Okay, I'll be glad to. And I'll start with one or two stories that are interesting, and you can ask for other details if you want later. The Germans, Yom HaShoah, came to Hungary in the last minute. It was March 1944. We did not expect them to come. I remember taking a walk on the streets of our city called Szeged, the second largest city on the Yugoslavian border in Hungary. And suddenly I see millions of soldiers on motorcycles driving through top speed on the streets of Szeged, and I see they are German soldiers in their special hats, and I immediately felt, this looks like our end. A tremendous pachad or fear came over me. And then soon after that, they put everyone in a ghetto, and also the Jews from the neighboring small towns were brought in everyone should be collected together in Szeged, and then from Szeged to be deported to the various concentration camps. We had with us a girl from a neighboring town called Zenta. The present-day Zenta Rebbe, it took over Rabbi Yoelish, the Satmar Rebbe's position. And there was this young girl, age 18, whose husband was killed 3 months before. And she was in her 9th month having a baby. And I remember being in our shul one day, and I see 4 husky men bringing a very heavy bed into the shul by Mincha Ma'ariv and putting this bed right in front of the Oron Kodesh, because there was no other place where there would be room for such a big bed. I had no idea what this is about. I was 11 years old, and I didn't ask too many questions from my parents either, because I noticed that any little thing would upset them. There's nothing there that happened that was not upsetting. Nice things did not happen. And then at 12 midnight, I hear my mother leaving our home, which was on the same block as the shul, and she went to the shul. I had no idea where she went. And this girl came in and gave birth in the middle of the night, right in front of the Oron Kodesh, to a little baby. This baby, by the way, is today the present day Tzelem Rebbe. You all heard of the Tzelem Rebbe. He's the one who gives Hashgocha on all the Kedem products, the wine you drank for the Seder and the grape juice is under his Hashgocha. He's 76 years old. He was born in March 44. And we had a bris 8 days later in the basement. I was at this bris, and the Rebbe of the city that he came from, the neighboring city, Zenta, is the present day Satmar Rebbe. And he was the Sandek, and my father was the Quater. And the bris was there in a dark mikveh in the basement of the shul by some candlelights. And then right afterwards, I remember a scene that I never thought I would have to see. All the men who were there to make up the minyan were screaming, what did we just do? We just killed the baby. Because our enemies would recognize that the baby is a Jew by the fact that he had a bris. And how did this little baby survive? In the city of Vienna, there was a concentration camp that most people never heard of, called Strasshof. Within the city of Vienna, there were 2,000 Jews there. And there was only one rabbi there. The rabbi of the city, of the camp, was Rav Tzvi Hersh Cohn, my grandfather on my mother's side, my mother's father. And Kastner came. You heard of Kastner. He's the one on whose train we survived, and we were ransomed from Bergen-Belsen. So Kastner came once a month to Strasshof to pay off the Gestapo. And my grandfather became good friends with Kastner. In fact, he told him one day, why do you have to come every month? Pay them what they want, and you don't have to schlep here every month. He said they will take the money and kill everyone. So then Kastner comes to my grandpa a few months before the end of the war and says, listen, I'm hiring 2 trucks and saving 60 Hasidic Rebbe's. Kastner was not a religious Jew, but a secular Jew, but had a feeling for religion. And he told my aunt, who was his neighbor in the Jewish Community Council of Budapest, my aunt had an orphanage there. Her name was Sarah Lisa. He told her, listen, he wants to save as many Hasidic Rebbe's as possible, so after the war, they will rebuild the nation. And he told my grandfather, you come with me on one of these trucks, and that's how you will get out. So he came, and my grandfather told him, listen, the war is coming to an end soon. And there's a young girl, 18 years old, with a little baby. Take the girl and the baby and save their life, and I will get out when the war ends in 2-3 months. And that's how it was. And that's how the baby was saved. What's interesting is that this girl, the baby's mother, was 18 years old. And she said that as long as Hashem spared her, she wants to devote the rest of her life to be of service to tzaddikim. So when she came to America, she married the Rebbe that she sat next to on the truck, called the Stropkever Rebbe, who was about 3 times as old as she. And when the Stropkever Rebbe was nifter, then she married the Tzelemer Rebbetzin, who just passed away then. And again, the Tzelemer Rebbe was about 3 times her age. And now the present day Tzelemer Rebbe is about the age of the prior Rebbes that she married. But as a result, he became a Rebbe and a world well known in the whole world. So that is one story from the Shoah. I see this Rebbe occasionally, and in fact, I had a yeshiva for 52 years in Canarsie, Brooklyn, and I went to him once if he could help me. And he told me what he gets. I said, forget it. And anyhow, we are good friends to this day. He's married to a lady from London, and I wish him all the best. I speak to him occasionally. He has a yeshiva in Williamsburg called the Tzilma Yeshiva. Then Kastner arranged a train. I made a deal with Eichmann to save 1,600 Jews, 1,600. And Kastner said, what? Kastner said that he wants to save as many Rebbes as possible. So amongst the 1,600 Jews that he saved, at least half were Rabbonon and some Hasidic Rebbes. One of the Hasidic Rebbes was Rabbi Yoelish, the Satmar Rebbe, the Tzadik L'Rucho, and his Gabbai, Rabbi Yosef Ashkenazi, and many others. And my aunt put on this list also my father and mother and brother and sister, Rebbetzin Esther. And that's how the three of us got saved. We went to Bergen-Belsen in June '44, and he said as soon as the money comes in, which is $5 million for our ransom, he will let us go. He was willing to let us go for nothing if we could obtain from what they call the Jewish government in Yerushalayim 10,000 trucks loaded with chocolates, cocoa, and coffee. No, there was no way to get it. And he didn't need the document. He said, just come back with an empty piece of paper and I will let them go. Not only I will let them go, let everyone go, but I will stop all deportations. That's what Eichmann told Kastner. And of course, the deportations went on, and the Jews who were in Budapest, most of them were killed by Hungarians, and we went to Bergen-Belsen in June. By Hanukkah '44, the money came, and they announced at 12 midnight, tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock, line up, and you can go. And so the train station next to Bergen-Belsen was called Celle. It's still there. And it took us almost the whole day to march to the train station till it came. They promised our parents that the children who stayed behind would go by truck. They did not keep, and our parents panicked. We were supposed to get there at 2 p.m. and no trucks came to take us. So by the time we got to the station, it was 9 p.m. and they were hysterical. And we were so scared. It took hours to calm them down and let them know that we are alive and we are here. And nobody wanted us after the war. Nobody. We couldn't go to Palestine, and we couldn't go anywhere. The only country where we could go to was Australia. But nobody wanted to go that far. So finally, we got documents to be able to come to America in March of '47. So we were in DP camps in Switzerland from '45, and end of '44 till March '47. The Swiss were very anti-Semitic. They hated our guts. But finally, we got here, and we started a shul and a yeshiva, and your father was a member of our family. Arif, your father was really, and mother, your father was my father's gabbai, so to say, Huisbucher, they call it in Yiddish. And that's what I was also to the Satmar Rebbe. After the war, I was his first Huisbucher. Now, I could share with you. What? I don't know what you want.
You didn't say anything about your experience in the camp.
Life in the camp?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will tell you about the camp where Rosh Hashanah came, and we had 1,600 people, but we had permission to daven. So Rosh Hashanah, you know, is not like every day. Most people don't know the davening by heart. And there was only one machzor in the whole camp for 1,600 people, and the Bat Tfilah was the Satmar Rebbe. And he davened from the machzor, and we didn't have a shofar. So we found out that the neighboring camp, the Polish camp, has a shofar. I don't know if you know the means of exchange in a concentration camp. It was not money. It was cigarettes. For one cigarette, you can buy a slice of bread. And that meant that you exist that day. So the Polish camp wanted 200 cigarettes for the shofar. We collected it. It was a big Mesiras Nefesh, whoever gave a cigarette. And we got the shofar. The Rebbe blew the shofar. And just as he blew the shofar, a big, huge truck loaded with junk was pushed by about 19 Polish Jews. And they were surrounded by Ukrainian guards. The worst, most cruel guards we had in a concentration camp were the Ukrainians. I never told a Jew not to go to Oman, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I will not do that because I feel the Rebbe Zatzal should have company. But I tell everyone, you go, don't dare make a brocha on vegetable or fruit or anything that grows in that cursed soil. The Ukrainians are the most cruel. That's where you had Babi Yar. Now, Babi Yar, they killed 75,000 Jews. Each Jew got one bullet, and he had to dig his own grave. I know a lady from Staten Island, was 14 years old, and she got shot 3 times. But she says each time a malach pulled her out. And some people here sell shmiramasas from the Ukraine because their wheat is very good. And I told them, don't dare make a brucha on anything that grows in the soil, because for 3 days after the Jew was killed, they would bury him alive with one bullet, and the earth was trembling and shaking. And I would not go to the Ukraine, and they are anti-Semitic to this day, but I never told a Jew not to go because the Rebbe who is buried there, Reb Nachman, deserves a nice kosher minyan for Yom HaShoah, and his tefillas should help that all the Jews should be gathered in Eretz Yisrael. So anyone, any questions, any comments?
Ari.
You hear me?
Yes, hi. My name is Rabbi Jungreis. Hi, my name is Esty Reed. Do you hear me?
Where is your Rabbi?
You know, she mentioned what it was like on the cattle cars. How Zayda was makarv the Litvish Bachran.
What?
How Zayda was makarv the Litvish Bachran. They don't want to speak to them. The Litvish Bachran.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
The Zayda, the Mama Zayda were the only ones that were makarv them. And also the cattle car. How it was like.
Yeah. In Bergen-Belsen, we had in our group also close to 100 literature yeshiva boys, teenagers, age 17, 18. They were big Talmidei Chachomim. They knew Shas by heart. In fact, my father asked one of them to learn with me a little. I was 11 years old in Bergen-Belsen. And many of them did learn with me, but they gave up on Yiddishkeit. But my father and mother started, so to say, the Batshuva movement in Bergen-Belsen, and when we carved these boys, my mother even helped them wash their laundry, and we became good friends, even in America, even in the United States. And that's how the whole idea of having a Batshuva movement started, and that's how my sister, Rebbetzin Esther, got the idea, and that's how she started a worldwide movement. As a matter of fact, what happened in my life was that my younger sister played the role as being my older sister, because she knew people and I did not. And it's because of her that I had someone who gave me a loan to build my shul in Canarsie the day after I got married in June 1960. I had a great Rebbetzin, Shifra Jungreis, and I met her going to a Stern College Hanukkah party, and the door was locked as we went there, and she was there and me. We stood at the door for about 5 minutes, and I started to speak to her, and I saw she's an American girl who knows everything about the Shoah and about the history of Israel. So that's how, what?
Rebbetzin and Mamo. Rebbetzin and Mamo. How you look.
How the what?
Look, Rebbetzin and
Oh, my son just reminds me. I became very good friends with one of the Gedolim of Hungary called the Rabbi of Debrecen. What was his name? The Debrecen Rav. Serge, you remember his name? And he was what he had, his age was what my age is today. He was 87 years old. And I took a walk with him. I was 11. I took a walk with him every day for 1 hour, from 12 to 1. And every day he spoke to me about the very same topic. It was one of the Gedolei Yisrael of Hungary. He said, why are we here? How come we are here? He said, it's our fault. We are here because of November 2nd, 1917. I don't know if you know what's November 2nd, 1917. That was the Balfour Declaration, when the British foreign minister said, "Kol dichrin yeseh ve'echol." Every Jew is welcome to come home to Israel and to Palestine, and nobody went. We could have gone and nobody went, so that's the reason we are here in Bergen-Belsen. And I remember an exchange between my mother, Zatzal, and the Debrecen Rebbetzin Zatzal, who was about 3 times as old as my mother. And it tells my mother, quotes her, Miriam, let's look at each other. I mean, everyone looked disheveled. So my mother told her, Rebbetzin, Hashem knows who we are, and we look beautiful in his eyes. And that I remember that answer from my mother to the Debrecen Rebbetzin. And there are many other details. I remember the Satmar Rebbe davened, Rosh Yom Kippur. I remember I also became Bat Phil later, and I remember well the Kaddish of the Satmar Rebbe, and I use that Kaddish to this very day. And in fact, a year ago, I was the guest speaker at the annual Blavermark of Satmar for his liberation, the Chachagurlo. Yes.
So one of the things that I want to be able to do is open it up for questions. Okay. And we can have a few people have questions too, so that you can answer it. We do have.
What I'm going to do is everyone who wants to be able to ask a question, Rabbi Jungreis can't hear it through us, so I'm going to ask that question out there on our phone to him. So again, we also have a group chat over here that people could ask questions, and that's the way we'll be able to do that. So one of the questions that we have, first of all, thank you so much again for your stories.
It's my honor.
Yeah,
By the way, I spoke at West Point at length. I know you are from the Israel Army. They appreciate that the Jews have an army. So for you who were in the army in Eretz Yisrael, Toda Rabba, Chazak v'Matz.
Yeah, so again, so anyone that has questions, so one of the things that someone actually asked over here was, which is a question that I guess could also connect with even through today, with everything going on, but this is more, was how was your emunah in Hashem and God changed from your horrific experiences in the Holocaust? You know, that's something that maybe you could share with everyone, and, you know, even give the lessons maybe for today as well. A lot of people are going through challenges. There's a lot of challenging times as well. You know, something that you could be able to share with everyone, how we could move forward as well, and something that's going on. And your family definitely showed that tremendously.
I tell you, certainly there are a lot of stumbling blocks. We are almost at Mashiach already. The establishment of the state was a huge miracle, and all the wars that followed were huge miracles. And certainly, you are young, you don't remember the 6-Day War was an unbelievable miracle. In fact, we say on Sukkot, we say Hashanah. We go around the shul with the Esther Lulav, and there is a Hashanah that we say that my grandfather taught me, refers to the 6-Day War. On the 3rd day, we say Hoshano Sholosh Shois. God help us with the 3 hours. What does that mean? The 6-Day War was basically won during the first 3 hours when the Israeli Air Force destroyed the Egyptian Air Force while it was sitting in the airports. And so Hashem help us. He says he never understood what that means, Hashanah Shoish. And my grandfather told me he believes B'emunah Shlema that that's what it was. And to any of the Rabbonon I ever spoke to, they agree. Hashanah Shoish referred to the 6-Day War. And we are there. We are surrounded by enemies. And Baruch Hashem, we have a strong army that Hashem gives strength to. It's not like a Jewish army in the Warsaw Ghetto, although that was a great heroic act, what our brothers did in the Warsaw Ghetto. But with Baruch Hashem, in the world, they know that you cannot start up with the Jews. They are not pushovers. No, we have this virus now, and there are a lot of people that we are losing. Hashem has to help. I feel that we are very close to Bias HaMashiach, very close. This did not conclude yet. And there are many people who feel that it will have a happy ending with the coming of Mashiach, B'mheru v'yameinu, Amen. What?
We have another question over here, Rabbi Jungreis, for you. One of the lone soldiers asked, how is the transition from Bergen-Belsen to the Swiss displaced person camp, and how are the Swiss anti-Semitic?
The Swiss couldn't stand us. In fact, they wanted to pack us up and deport us to Uganda after a year of being there, because nobody wanted us. And if you traveled on the Swiss railroad in a yarmulke, they would call you Hype Judah, dirty Jew. And to this day, Switzerland is a very anti-Semitic country that people don't realize it. a few years ago, you know, when people do me a favor, they don't ask me what I would like, but they just tell me. And they took me for a Shabbos in the summer to St. Moritz. And they cursed us out with anti-Semitic slogans for being Jewish. And that's how they are. What? Yeah. In fact, there was a lady on the street as I left this Glad Kosher Hotel in St. Moritz. She told me, we don't like your type here. I say, you don't look good either. I told her. And I don't like your type. Okay. All right.
So another question we have that someone brought up earlier today was with having, what was the, again, your sister was, Rebbetzin Esther was very, very well known and people heard.
Right.
And how was that going together, growing up together, that experience of from the Holocaust, being able to see how your family, how what your whole family together was able to do, affecting hundreds of thousands of millions of people around the world. What was that like for you? And again, obviously, like there's a book out about your sister right now. Like, is there, you know, a lot of people ask, like, you know, it's amazing to be able to hear from you. So if you could just share a little bit more about maybe even Rebbetzin Esther and yourself, and just, it would be really cool to connect it.
Everyone in life has a shlichus, a mission in life. And you can choose it also, but if it's, you can choose whatever mission you want for the sake of Hashem. My sister, Rebbetzin Esther, was my younger sister. She was 6 years, she was 3 years younger than me. What? I thought it was 36. Right. Right. She was 3 years younger than me. And so she was my kid sister. But her real role in life was being my older sister. She knew people. I did not know people. My job was to run a yeshiva. And I married a tremendous Rebbetzin who knew a lot about education. She was an American girl, and she also knew the Shoah, and she worked very hard, 12, 13 hours a day. But my sister is the one who enabled me to do things that I could have never done. First, I had to build my shul in Canarsie, Brooklyn, and she got a guy to give me a loan of $55,000, which was a lot of money in 1960. And he gave it to me as a mortgage. We paid it all back, Hashem, and we built a shul on East 87 between L&M. And that was my shul till I was in Canarsie. And then we opened the yeshiva, and she is the one who was the shadchan between me and the leader, the top-notch builder, who did not feel like getting involved with the yeshiva, but Esther, Rebbetzin Esther persuaded him to do a mitzvah and build a yeshiva, and he went with me, and I signed it at the Williamsburg Savings Bank, a mortgage of $675,000. This was in 1966, and he got the mortgage. He signed for it, and I signed that I will pay it. And to the last days, my sister's role in my life was visit the Israeli army camps, and especially I remember going to the Air Force base of the Israeli Air Force, and they saw that she's an entertainer, that she sings and dances, and they invited her to the bar. So we took a Coke, and then when she got up to speak, the soldiers started to sing and to clap, and then she started to speak like a rabbi. But at the end, they got used to it, that she's not a dancer or a singer. And I had a tremendous hanur, a tremendous pleasure from my sisters welcome wherever she went. She went to also to Washington and to all over. And she was a tremendous inspiration to me. And it's because of her, basically, that I became a speaker about the Holocaust. I'm on the main speakers list of the Holocaust Museum in Manhattan. And they are the ones who took me to West Point, to Binghamton University, and they took me also to speak at the FBI all over. And I speak to this day, by the way. I'm Baruch Hashem over a certain age, and I'm today 87, but the Rebbetzin Esther A was in Bergen-Belsen in 44. And Baruch Hashem, I'm active every single day, and I go to make speeches wherever I'm invited.
Wow. Thank you so much for
But
that.
I miss Esther very much, but I'm sure she shouldn't go up there to retire. It says in our forum, Tzadikim ein lahem menucha lo b'olam hazeh v'lo b'olam habo. Tzadikim have no peace or rest, not in this world, and after 120, they don't go to retire to Gan Eden. They work 24 hours a day. And I'm sure that Esther is doing her job there.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Again, we have just a few more minutes if that's good for you. Tzvi Herschel also told me that. Again, we just started a few minutes late. If that works. Do you still have a few minutes for just a few more questions?
I don't hear.
We can't hear you that clearly.
Do you have a few more minutes for questions from people?
Do I have questions?
So do you have a few more minutes for questions?
Yes, as much as you want.
Okay, Heshi Reese, you had a question you wanted to say before. If you want to be able to share that, and then I'll ask it again over the phone.
Okay, can you hear me?
I don't hear you.
I was going to say it over the phone afterwards.
It's
Okay,
too
so just
long.
start asking.
Ari, could you hear me?
I could hear you.
Okay, so there was a yeshiva in Seged that you were mentioning that was run by the Salem Rav, who had a mechitin who was Rabbi Reisner, the Terzler Rav.
Yes, can you?
So it so happens that is my family. Rabbi Rosner, who was a Rebbe in that Seged yeshiva, the daughter was my grandmother. And
one second. Rabbi Jungreis, were you able to hear any of that?
We can't hear.
I did not hear you.
Except what you were saying on the phone.
I can't hear that. Okay, so
anyway, I'm going to show a picture. He learned in the Seged yeshiva before the war.
And who is that?
He learned in the Seged yeshiva before the war.
He married the Terzler Rav's daughter.
Yes.
He married which Rav's daughter?
The Terzler Rav's daughter, who was mechitin to the Salem.
The Rav's daughter, who was the mechitin of
the Salem Rav.
The Salem Rav.
His name is Herschel Reis. He was the son of Rav Baruch Reis.
Herschel Reis, his name was?
And he was the son of Rav Baruch Reis.
And he's the son of Rav Baruch Reis.
Sorry, please say that one more time.
It's just very interesting that he was talking about this Seged yeshiva where my grandfather learned.
So you're saying that you're talking about the yeshiva where his grandfather learned. So that was very inspiring for him to hear that.
But the yeshiva?
No, he was saying that it was very inspiring when you're talking about the Seged yeshiva. That's where his grandfather learned before the war.
Yeah, my father was the rabbi of Szeged, and that was the second largest city in Hungary. And we had a lot of traffic in the house. I never slept alone. on the average, we had 50 people sleeping over because people were running from country to country and nobody wanted to take them in. And we were on the Yugoslavian border, and at that time, the head of the Yugoslavian partisans, anyone knows what was his name? The head of the Yugoslavian partisans. In America, they don't teach anything. Okay, the head of the Yugoslavian partisans, everyone in Europe knows it. Tito, ever heard of Tito? Okay, I don't blame you, it's not your fault. In the school, they don't teach history, God
He
forbid.
saved my uncle.
And Tito took in every Jew who came to Yugoslavia. So there was an underground railroad from our city to Yugoslavia on the other side of the river. However, Tito was a goy. And what happened was that as much as he helped the Jews during the Shoah, and he protected them and saved them, after the Shoah, he became the president of Yugoslavia. And he voted always against the state of Israel at the UN. So I make a drush always about this. I liken it to when Sarah Imenu had to be buried. So Avram Avinu went to where? To the Bnei Ches. You hear me? And what did the Bnei Ches tell Avram Avinu? They told Avram Avinu, "B'mifchar kavorenu kvar es mesechu." Take the most beautiful cemetery, and that's where you should bury Sarah. But that the Jews should live well, and they should have weapons to defend themselves when the state was established, that no. But nice, good cemeteries, that yes. And how did the Holocaust Museum come about in Washington? Do you know? Any of you know who sponsored, which president sponsored the Holocaust Museum in Washington? You know who? The biggest anti-Semite amongst all the presidents. It was sponsored by President Carter. How did it come about? Israel bought 36 jet fighters, and Carter became president and put an embargo on it. So a huge delegation went to Carter and said, "Please lift the embargo." He said, "No, I will not lift the embargo, but I will build a museum in the memory of the 6 million. So for dead Jews, they will do a lot of things, like the Bnei Ches. But to keep us alive, that we should be able to defend ourselves, nothing.
Wow.
Anyone else?
One more question we have over here was, how is it transitioning from the depth of the hate of the Holocaust to the ending of the Holocaust? How is that transition after moving forward?
Well, I tell you, I was pretty disappointed when I came to America. Nobody asked me, where do you come from? Nobody said, tell us about your experiences in Bergen-Belsen. No one asked, me ein boso lon atohoilech. I came here in 1947, and I started to speak about the Holocaust in 1970. So we are talking about 23 years. Up to 1970, nobody had an interest in the Holocaust. And there, one of my graduates from my yeshiva went to high school, Flatbush Yeshiva, where one of the teachers was very much into the Holocaust and taught her to interview me. And she published me, and she became later the director of the Holocaust Museum here. And that's how I got on their staff. But it's amazing that in 1970, nobody knew about the Holocaust. What? Also not.
could tell them about how the Chaim and how you went Chaim the last few months and you struggled to get English.
Yeah, it was interesting. I went to Chaim Berlin when I came here, and I also went to Torah Das for the first 4 months in Williamsburg, but I lived in East Flatbush. It was too much. So in both in Torah Das and Chaim Berlin in those days, we are talking about the late 40s and early 50s, everyone was only interested in one thing. I should lose my accent. They're all upset about an accent and get rid of the accent. As much as I tried, I couldn't. To this very day, I cannot. Today, Baruch Hashem, nobody cares about it. In fact, today an accent is interesting. But those days, that's how it was. And listen, now we have to really learn Russian Kodesh because Mashiach will come through. I think after this thing.
The Manushtritzel was the Manushtritzel.
Yeah. We were very Makarev. My CS tells me, reminds me, we were very Makarev. We had in our neighborhood in East Flatbush a well-known Hasidic Rebbe.
Who was McCarthy? You were McCarthy.
Was Makarev, my Abba Zatzal. And we had no Parnosa as we got here. It was March 47. After a boat ride, a horrible boat ride on a freighter that took 4 weeks from Gibraltar to Norfolk. Anyhow, he told my father, listen, you come to my shul, make a drusha once a month. And for every drusha, I will give you $500. That was Bruchageld, they call it, you know. In by Hasidim, the Chosan is always asked on his chasana to make a drusha at the tish, and people give him money for the drusha. So they call it Drushageld. And that's how he called it. And the first 4 months, March, April, May, June of 47, the Manushtritzer Rebbe, Rabbi Rabinovitz, is who supported us till my father received his own shul.
Wow, thank you. I had one more thing from the last question. Levi, did you want to ask it more clear? Or Leah, you wanted to ask it more clear? Just and then this will be the last one for now. And then if anyone has a private question they want to ask.
I'm very happy to speak as long as you want.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Okay, Leah, you want to ask it and then I'll say it?
Sure. Sure. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
What?
Thank you so much for all of this.
Leah, wait 1 second. I'm going to try to make this on.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my God, my brain.
Okay, she's saying so, Leah, you're going to be asking me the question. I'm going to send it there because they can't hear you. I'm speaking to the phone, and he's going to hear it from there.
Gotcha. How was it like for him to say his story for the first time? Like, did he still, from what it sounds like to me, it sounds like it wasn't any better when he came to America because everyone's ignoring it. How was it like for him when he first shared his story?
Okay, so first of all, she says thank you, and her question was.
What's her name? What's her name?
Leah Levertov.
And where does she live?
Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn.
And how old are you?
I'm 28.
28 years old.
Are you single or married?
Married, 2 kids.
Married with 2 kids.
Oh, the Chosan. You have a very handsome boy. He looks like a millionaire.
Thank you.
Was in the Tzara also?
I'm sorry?
When the Israeli army?
Her husband did the army. Her husband was in the paratroopers. In
Israel?
Yeah.
That's the best place to jump. It's the best. Than anywhere else. So what's the question?
Her question was like this. Leah, tell me if I'm wrong or just switch it up. So she said that it seemed like it took you a long time after to be able to speak about about the Holocaust after. And then you also said, Leah, that when you came back here, when you came back here,
It kind of, yeah, it kind of sounded to me, I may be wrong, I hope I'm wrong, but it sounded to me like that when he came to the US, it wasn't any better since it was more like a taboo silence as if nothing ever happened.
So when you came to the US, it was the same as like when you were back there because it was totally like a silence.
Yes, nobody was interested in the Shoah. The main interest really started in the 70s with the film Schindler's List. That brought about an interest in the Shoah. The Jews were not interested, and the Goyim were not interested, and suddenly the whole United States became interested, and today the whole United States is interested. There are more Shoah programs on Jewish television today than there were many years ago, right after the Shoah. Right after the Shoah, nobody really asked or cared. And
was there a trauma from that? Was there like a nightmares, all that kind of stuff? Was it even known like a thing of how to deal with it? Was there any help after, or guidance even of what to do, how to be able to move forward?
But
Did anyone help how to deal with it? Yeah,
no.
Was there like a PTSD?
Though there was just no interest in the Shoah till 1970.
Because people wanted to put it.
So when you did,
People wanted to put it behind them also. That's true, but it's amazing to me that nobody, just as when I came, nobody asked me. Nobody asked me for about 23 years anything about the Shoah. And then since then, with every year, more and more people are into it.
how was it like sharing your story for the first time?
It has to do with the
How was
community.
it sharing your story the first time?
It was, I was new in it, but I tried to do my best. My first time was speaking to an assembly in Flatbush High School, to a few hundred boys and girls. And it was new to me and it was new to them. But then it's, as it says, mitzvah goreres mitzvah. One spirit brought about the other, and I started to speak almost every day. And in many yeshivas, I also spoke. I even spoke at Lubavitch, and a year ago I spoke at Satmar. I did not tell them, of course, when they invited me, that I'm a Zioni, that I'm a Zionist. However, that's all right. They knew it well.
Well, Rabbi Jungreis,
there were 10,000 people when I spoke there.
So if we're going to what you said before, is it possible just to jump back on to what you mentioned a little while ago about who was Kastner? Like, I don't think a lot of people know what that was. What was the ransom for? People don't understand that. And then someone asked with that, do you feel like someone asked over there before said, you mentioned there were 1,600 people that were rescued, and one second, what they wrote over here was, did you feel that it wasn't fair only 1,600 people were rescued, and that you were able to leave? So if you could just go preface with the Kastner, and then from there to how you felt.
To
who?
From Kastner to?
Yeah. Explain what happened there, if possible.
Kastner, then how it felt like you were safe, and then you had to leave
Yeah.
behind.
I tell you, Okay, if you have patience to listen, I'll tell you. How did we get on the Kastner train? Whatever you hear, Lashon Hara, about the man is a lie. He was a tzaddik gomer. He was not religious. He was a lawyer by profession, the head of the Hungarian Zionist movement. And he had guts. His office was in the Jewish Community Center of Budapest, and next to his office was an orphanage. My aunt, Sarah Aliza Jungreis, at the age of 18, and she was the daughter of a very old, my grandfather was an old Hasidic rabbi in a city called Nadvar, and she did something that no one in those days would do. At the age of 18, she picked herself up and left the shtetl and went to one of the most modern cities in Europe, Budapest, with electricity and water and everything, and got a job as the head of an orphanage in the Jewish Community Council building. And she became good friends with Kastner. Kastner had guts. He decided to go to the Gestapo building. He did something that no one would dare do. You know, if you went into the Gestapo building, you don't come out alive. Like Esther Hamalko told Mordechai, if you go to see Achashverosh without being invited, you don't come out. But Mordechai told her, Im loy le'es kozois higat lemalchus. You have to do it. And Kastner went and became friends with Eichmann, Yemach Shemai. And Eichmann told him, listen, I know there is a Jewish government in Yerushalayim, because that's what Hitler wrote in his book, that the world is run by a secret Jewish government, and this government is in Yerushalayim, about 30 Jewish leaders. Send somebody there that they should give me 10,000 trucks loaded with coffee, sugar, and chocolates. And this Mr. Brown never came back. He went to Israel and he was arrested by the British in Yerushalayim, put into jail. And so then Eichmann, after a while, said, I don't know why I didn't come back. I didn't need an official document, just a paper that I'm getting 10,000 trucks. I would have stopped all deportations all over the world. He said that anyhow, I will let go 1,600 Jews. Give me a list and I want $5 million for it. When I get the $5 million, I will let them go. Meanwhile, I will lock them up in a concentration camp, but keep them alive. So a train came to Budapest. They put us on the train, not like the train that took me to Budapest, with 90 people on it and no air to breathe. We had 30 people on it, and everyone was able to sit down in a normal way. And we went to Bergen-Belsen from Budapest. It took us about 2 weeks to get there, through Austria, where we, for the first time, we saw a gas chamber, where we took a shower, and all types of things. Finally, we get to Bergen-Belsen 2 weeks later, and they tell us to, this was in June, they tell us to walk from the train station called Celle to this day, not far from Hanover. And we come to Bergen-Belsen, and everyone looks up and says, we are in the middle of a forest. And everyone's commented, there's something here that is missing. a forest should have what? Every forest has something. How do you call that? Birds. And there were no birds in Bergen-Belsen. Let's say Disney World is full of birds, but it has only cement. However, because it's a happy place, the birds come. And we were there till Hanukkah, 44, 7 months, till American Jews assembled $5 million and gave it to Kastner, who gave it to Eichmann, and that's how we were taken to Switzerland. And the Swiss hated our guts. Very anti-Semitic at Hayom Hazeh.
When you left, you saw all the faces.
What?
When you left, you saw the people's faces looking back.
They woke us up at 12 midnight in Bergen-Belsen and asked, listen, the money came in, line up 6 a.m., we'll let you go. This was at the end of December, Hanukkah. So when we line up, they say, listen, we will be nice people. The adults go to the station and the kids, 500 kids, stay behind with chaperones, and at 12 noon, we'll come to pick them up by truck, so they and the kids will arrive to the station at the same time. Not yet.
3 times.
Really?
The problem was that you saw the faces when you were looking back.
Oh, so as we walked out, I looked at the faces of the other barracks, especially the Polish Jews, extremely sad faces. And, you know, in Satmar, they have a minhag, they make a very big Suda for the liberation of the Rebbe. In my house, the rabbis, my grandfather, my uncle, my father, the old paskund, we don't make a Suda for our liberation because we left everybody behind to die. And that's how it was. And we left very sad faces. And I cannot make a simcha if I'm the only one smiling. I need my brothers and sisters also to smile. So when Mashiach will come, we will all smile. Bimheru b'yomenu amen.
Well, Amen. Thank you so much, Rabbi Jacob Jungreis. Again, that was really, really, really special. Again, I feel I can go on for hours on this, but obviously you really gave out tremendous amount of time for this. And from all of us over here, again, this is, you know, as a soldier, just, you know, a lot of times the soldiers go through different things in life and you know, experiences. But I think the biggest thing that we could see as lone soldiers is that, and even soldiers in general, is the determination from every single one of the Holocaust survivors, how they were able to move forward, be able to push forward. And again, it was hard, it was challenging and all that, but I think that you're just all real inspirations. And again, from all of us, we want to be able to say thank you. And in Mitzvah Shem, next week, we're going to be doing something for Yom HaZikaron. I want to be able to we're going to hopefully be having soldiers speaking and sharing their stories and their experiences as well. And so with that, I want to say thank you again for your time, and we should be able to all be together with everyone in Yerushalayim and Jerusalem together with Mashiach.
Halabai, I tell you, the soldiers who went, that's a big zechus. I hope they realize what a great privilege it is for a Jew to go and defend Eretz Yisrael. It's the greatest privilege in the past 2,000 years. Hashem did not give us this privilege till recently. And Baruch Hashem, our boys and girls defend the Jewish state, and we are very, very close to Mashiach. I don't want to give it a date. People who tell us when all this epidemic is over, that's when Mashiach comes. I don't know. I'm not in the Kabbalah business. However, let him come. Let him come. And already Chag Sameach for Yom HaAtzmaut.